With JBL addressing accusation plans for WWE following the draft, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for October 5th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. On his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T noted how Drew McIntyre and Charlotte Flair are game changers for SmackDown. For Fox, that's a big catch for them. Drew McIntyre, through the pandemic, he proved himself as far as being a soldier, a guy that's willing to push forward through adversity and in times we've never been before. He still shined. Drew's a big catch for SmackDown, and it's one of the things I talked about all the time, having an international guy in the show, which translates to international fans watching because they love McIntyre. Charlotte Flair, that's a huge grab for Fox as well, being on Friday nights. Charlotte, as much as she brings to the table, she is the, this generation's Ric Flair. She wears that mantle and wears it very well. To have those two on SmackDown is huge. Changes for the draft will go into effect on the 21st, as we'll have to see how these two fare on the blue brand. With her drafted to SmackDown, Dave Meltzer mentioned a potential spoiler for plans regarding Sasha Banks. The women's side, there is no top women babyface on SmackDown. I'm figuring that Sasha Banks becomes a babyface because the other two top women stars are Charlotte Flair, who absolutely shouldn't be a babyface, and Shayna Baszler, who appears based on how she's being booked is not a babyface. Speaking of plans following the draft, apparently there are big things ahead of Austin Theory, who made his way from NXT to Monday Night Raw, as he laid out Jeff Hardy last night. Ringside News has reported that WWE called up a few NXT stars as a part of the draft, but they have big plans for at least one of them. A tenured member of the creative team confirmed to us that WWE has big plans for Austin Theory. His deal on Raw with Jeff Hardy was just the start for him. Theory is only 24, and looks to have all the tools needed to be a breakout star, as we hope WWE can follow through on their push for him. Sticking with Jeff Hardy, he spoke on the Culture State podcast about making a new Willow mask and possibly using it again. Speaking of Willow, I was just talking to the guy who makes the mask, who made it back then. He's an awesome mask maker and making a new Willow mask, and talk about the possibility of Willow entering the scene once again before my career is over. There we go, it's gonna happen. Despite WWE not having any right to the Willow character, it would be interesting to see Jeff Hardy mask up in the company. With Goldberg set to take on Bobby Lashley in a no-holds-barred match at Crown Jewel, the WCW icon has had some harsh words for the former WWE champion, as Dutch Mantel called him out on this while speaking on True Heel Heat. Years ago when I was young, I told a guy I was going to kill him. They stopped the interview. They said, "Don't say you're going to kill him. We don't need that. Everybody knows they're not going to kill him. Don't they have laws against killing people? I mean, you can go out there and say I will destroy you, or I will annihilate you, or take you apart, but murdering people, that's a bad word anyway. And he shouldn't have used it, and I don't like it." If Goldberg is able to overcome Lashley in Saudi Arabia, this could set him up for a title shot against the current champion, Big E. Given the draft, there were many options on the table for WWE, as it was noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that one of those included breaking up the Street Profits. By the way, did you hear that the Street Profits were almost broken up? They were. Montez Ford was always going to Raw, but they were thinking of leaving Angelo Dawkins on SmackDown and breaking up the team, which blows my mind. It was even noted that WWE broke up all the women's tag teams, with exception to the current champions. Now that his 90-day non-compete clause is up, many are expecting to see Braun Strowman pop up in a new promotion such as Impact Wrestling or possibly even AEW. Ringside News asked about WWE's interest in bringing back the Monster Among Men with them, saying, "We keep getting asked about Braun Strowman's situation. Here is all we know. WWE has no interest in having him back. We were told if it was going to happen, then he would be back in the fold already. His non-compete clause is over and WWE isn't interested in having him back." Roman Reigns is set to defend his Universal title against Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel on the 21st. Meltzer broke down the next possible challengers for the champion, saying the headliner's side on SmackDown is exceedingly weak. If Roman Reigns gets through Drew McIntyre, your next level of guys is Sheamus and Happy Corbin as heels, and Nakamura and Jeff Hardy as babyfaces. Given news of Tony Khan taking power away from the executive vice presidents, Jim Cornette touched on Khan micromanaging AEW, saying apparently the story is going around that Tony Khan has taken the creative control away from the erstwhile executive vice presidents of AEW, namely the Hardley Boys, Kenny Olivier, and my old ex-friend Cody Rhodes. But apparently this is the report. He's taken creative control from them. They still have input, but he's the final decision maker. What was it before? What was he doing? Hey Cody, you're in segment 5. Let me know what you're doing. Was that it? EVPs come and go. It's gonna be interesting when they have outgrown their semi-usefulness. The one thing we've pretty much established is that as long as that company exists, whether it's 4 years, 40 years, whatever the case, Tony Khan is gonna insist on being the booker. After the controversy with Castor Oil a few weeks ago, if he's approving the raps the Acclaimed do on the way to the ring, then he's micromanaging to an extent that I don't know Vince McMahon ever did. Due to needing more fans in the 18 to 49 demographic, Vince McMahon reportedly wanted more profanities, which he even pitched for NXT 2.0 along with more revealing female attire. Ringside News asked about the company upping the profanity on programming, saying WWE programming is getting a bit dirtier. We haven't heard that they're going full on TV-14 yet, but saying shit on television is a start. NXT and Raw are getting looser with the language, but that's not 100% the case with SmackDown. Fox has standards and practices. Mauro Ranallo is one of the best combat sports play-by-play commentators, and when he came to WWE, he brought new life to the SmackDown commentary desk. Unfortunately, he struggled with the likes of JBL, a notorious backstage bully in WWE. Talking about these accusations, JBL told Hannibal TV, "Maybe I could have deserved the accusations. I don't know. You know, we were younger. We broke balls. I'm a loud guy from the South, and a lot of people, I think, took that wrong. I can tell you with Mauro, there was never any malicious intent ever toward anything I said toward Mauro. Anything I said on camera, that was all in character. You know, some of it could be deserved. I'm not trying to rewrite my history. I was not a saint. We drank a lot back then. We ran the roads, and we would always love to crack on each other. It was just part of what we did, and I think a lot of people took that wrong, and some of it could have gone too far. I'm not trying to excuse anything I've done." JBL pointed out that he was portraying a heel persona whenever he'd rant about Mauro, with him apparently staying in character 24/7. When we started, we protected the business 24/7, so when I wrestled in Europe for Out of Wands, you had to be in character 24/7. We lived on the parking lots outside of the carnival tents and had to wrestle, so they wanted us in character all the time, not just in the ring. You walk around town and somebody tries to get an autograph from you, you bark at them, and that kind of carried forward, and I'm one of the last groups to have done that. So yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that some of that went too far, and some of that was me being in character. And again, I'm not trying to excuse myself, I'm just explaining from my perspective kind of how it happened. Well, there was a show we did called Bring It to the Table, and that was one of the big contentious points. As far as, you know, anything I said on camera, that was 100% in character. Anything I said backstage, I don't think there was anything, but I can't speak for Mauro, so there was no malicious intent on anything backstage. I thought I got along with Mauro fairly well, but the show Bring It to the Table, Mauro had a travel problem. There was a snowstorm across the country and he didn't make a show, and I'm not sure what all happened, but there was a snowstorm and he couldn't make travel. You know, those things happen. During that same time we did the show, and everybody points to that show as the point of me taking a shot at Mauro. Well, on that show right before we did it, there were about 3 to 5 minutes that we needed for the show. They said, "What can we do?" and said, "Hey, there's this internet poll that makes Mauro the #1 announcer. Can you do something on that?" I said, "Yeah, of course." So when he went on the show, I did a rant on the show about, "Oh, they made Mauro the #1 announcer. He's retweeted it, blah, blah, blah," 100% in character. And people talk about the poll, that I was so jealous of that poll, I went on TV and talked about it. I didn't know the poll existed until right before we went on the show, and that was me. I just assumed Mauro would know that was something I did in character. In fact, when the show aired, Meltzer, the online guy who does all the backstage news, they said Meltzer's mad at you, and I hadn't heard that name in quite a while because it's behind a paywall, his stuff, so I didn't read it. I didn't keep up with it, and I said, why is he mad? They said, well, that was his poll. I had no idea. The former WWE champion even recalled a situation after the ordeal with Ranallo where the two shook hands and exchanged words. That was me just being JBL on camera, and I think Morrow took that the wrong way. I hope he didn't. I hope now he realizes that it was something that I did that was 100% in character. I saw Morrow, I think, a few weeks later. Everything fell out, and I became the bad guy with everything. Anyway, I walked across the parking lot and he was on his phone, so I couldn't talk to him. So I shook his hand, walked across, and shook his hand. He said, how you doing, man? And I said, it's good, brother, and left, just to let him know that there was no ill intent, at least from me toward him. I regret the whole situation. During the second night of the draft, SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch announced herself as the first pick that night for Monday Night Raw. While she's been more vocal since becoming the man on Legion of Raw, Vince Russo did not have much good to say about her. Listen, I don't know what people have convinced themselves of, and I've been saying this for years and years and years. Becky Lynch is supposed to be so over, but from the very first time I saw her on NXT until tonight, so how long is that, Chris? I saw her in NXT, how long is that? Okay, all that time, Becky Lynch cannot cut a promo. She cannot. She is terrible at cutting promos. She is so over the top cutting promos. She is terrible. I'm sorry, man. I'm telling you from a professional point of view. And if it were me, I would be running Becky, because her promos should be a lot better than they are. A lot better than they are. I'm sorry, man. I'm just being honest. Comments from Corey Graves about Dana Brooke on Raw, where he said she needed to cut her losses and that she hasn't accomplished much of anything, has garnered a response from Brooke herself, as she took to Instagram to say, you cannot entertain everything regardless if it's indirect or direct. Let people do what they do best. Talk. Y'all act like y'all gonna die because somebody said something about you. It is not that deep. You cannot stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Once you entertain a clown, you become one. You the clown. I'm the queen. I keep pushing through. Watch me work. Graves later put out a middle finger emoji. With no context, he could have been replying to backlash from fans, or it could have simply been directed at Dana. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.